Okay, can you guys hear me? Hello, everyone. Hello, how are you guys doing tonight? Welcome, Jacob, Lisa, Teresa, glad to see you. Oh, I'm doing good. Doing good. How are your projects going so far? Did you start the revisions and also the feature story yet? Maybe. It's all quiet. Yeah, was super busy with cheer. Okay. All right. Well, maybe you have your own schedule. I understand that. Very, very good. Hopefully, everything that we covered yesterday helped you understand what you need to do for your assignment 2. If not, we can definitely go over things if you want me to repeat anything or go over anything that you were confused about from yesterday as well. Started working on it. Good. Any questions or anything that you guys have so far? Okay, no problem. Yeah. I think the full moon is playing with my schedule this week. I don't know about you guys. The full moon tonight. That's always fun, right? Right? Yeah. So we'll get through it, right? You're fishing. Well, welcome to week 2 live lecture 2. Everything makes sense now. There you go. See? Just blame it on the moon. That's so funny. I don't know why, but I feel correlation whenever the full moon comes with bad communication on my end, and also maybe technology not going the way it should go. So I don't know. Just kind of a weird thing, but all right. Well, it's great to see you guys in here. We are going to go over a few things today, but this is probably going to be a shorter lecture, just to give you a heads up. Yes, we're going to discuss that today, Lisa. Yeah, I didn't respond to that, but we'll take a look at that. Lisa just had, she wanted to talk about Adobe Bridge and kind of all that it has to offer, so we'll definitely check that out. But do you guys have any questions so far, as with anything that's maybe a concern of yours or anything that you wanted to go over? And we can always do this at the end of the lecture too. But I just want to give you a heads up. This is probably going to be a shorter lecture depending upon you guys if you want to share your screen. I'm dealing with a sick kid tonight, so it's like one of those nights. All right. Yeah, she just has a cold, but we'll see how it goes. Yeah, I know. It's so sad when they're sick, right? She just has a little sniffle, but she usually gets up every now and then, so hopefully she'll stay asleep while I'm talking. But all right, well, let's go forward here. If you missed last night's lecture, if you weren't in the live lecture and you didn't get a chance to listen to the recording, I would really highly advise you to go back. We did go over a lot of the how to get started with your assignment 2. And I kind of did it in the way that I would approach the project. You don't have to emulate what I did, but you kind of can see the steps that I took to get where I got to at the end, so that you guys can have a little bit more of an understanding of how to start the project and end the project. So, all right, so definitely check that recording out if you haven't. Just checking in today, see how you guys are doing. That's important. Keep the communication lines open. I am here to help you guys. I'm not here to always, I'm here to evaluate your work as well. But I want you guys to succeed, because if you guys succeed, I succeed. So I want all of you to finish successfully in this class. So if you have any issues, anything, reach out to me. I can be more flexible with you guys in that regards. We're going to go over your assignment 2 demo continued. See if you guys have any questions. I went over a lot of stuff, like I said last night. So if there's anything that you want me to go over again, I can do that. Yeah, some of you commented I was going a little bit too fast. So, you know, we'll take a look at where we finished off here in a second and see if you have any questions. And then just a quick assessment 2 quiz. And then I'll go over a little bit about Adobe Bridge because Lisa brought up a question about that. And then, you know, we'll just kind of open it up to you guys. If you guys want to share your screen, you know, if you have any issues that are going on, or if you just even want to get a second opinion on your work, we can definitely do that. Does that sound good? This might be a little bit of a shorter night, but we'll get through here, right? All right, guys. Great. It's so great to see you, like all of you guys in here. Sometimes I don't get as many students in lecture, so it's great to see you guys all in here. So last night when we met up, we basically kind of covered what you guys needed to do. You're having memory issues, that's okay. If you remember week 1, we went over the editor note, letter from the editor, which was on page 2 and 7. So make those revisions based upon your evaluation. But then last night we went over starting your feature article. So I went over kind of how to apply your style sheets, you know, appropriately to this. Keep it consistent with the overall magazine. It's always good to keep that consistency, but you want to make sure it looks like a separate article as well, without it being too far off. So that hence the, you know, the little signifier up here changing color, and then, you know, it kind of threw in some color bars down here, and that kind of ties itself into the rest of that feature article. So I went over how to set your type, pull quotes that were included, text wraps, things to think about, you know, your widows, any type of orphans going on, baselines, aligning, and all of that good stuff. So, you know, this is a pretty big feature article. There's 4 pages involved in this. So you really want to make sure you're balancing this out. You don't want a big, you know, white space gap here at the end. You want to make sure you're really kind of playing around with the images so that it's very well balanced. And what's crazy about publications, and I can tell you this from experience, you could be working, and, you know, this is not going to happen to you guys, luckily, but you could be working on, oh, I just saw like a space here. See, the spaces need to be taken out there. So that changes a couple things. But you could be working on a feature article, and then at the very last minute, one of the advertisers may come in with an extra ad that needs to be plugged in somewhere, and the only area that that's available is maybe in the feature article. So you have those instances where last minute changes are needed to, you know, occupy a space within and you already have everything laid out. I've been in that position so many times. It's so funny that you just have to shift everything around. So you just have to get used to being very flexible, you know, with everything, and just kind of playing around with stuff. So if that were to happen in this case, say if an advertiser, you know, there was no other space except for the feature area pages, I would have to try to maybe create more space for that ad. Say it's a half-page ad. So I probably would, at that point, kind of downsize this image and create more space for my type, my body copy, so that I would provide a space for maybe a half-page ad. So just to kind of give you an idea of things that do happen in the real world that kind of throw you off, but you kind of just have to be, you know, as designers, you kind of have to be very versatile and very flexible with everything, because things do happen at the last minute. So does anybody have any question? I just noticed another little space here too. So there's some spacing issues that I'm kind of seeing in here that need to be taken care of. So really, you know, look at the spaces after each paragraph and your subheads. Make sure they're consistent with each other. I just deleted 2 extra spaces that I saw. Here's one, and I see here a weird space up here that I need to fix. So as you're shifting things, you really want to make sure you're kind of taking being close, kind of have that detail-oriented eyes on this, so that you can see that anything is not breaking kind of in a weird way here. Looks like I took care of a lot of things. It's almost, you know, this isn't too bad. It's not completely balanced, but I think that's pretty good. You can always kind of adjust this to kind of try to get this to be perfectly balanced, but like right there is probably good. This is all kind of just playing around with your imagery and your copy. Does anybody have any questions about master pages or style sheets or anything that I kind of went over the last 2 weeks here? No, you guys are good? Okay. So what I'm looking for is a really nice start of your feature article page. Like I said, have a focal point. It doesn't have to necessarily be an image. You can really kind of make your headline, say you keep the same typeface but make it larger and create a new paragraph style for that. And typography would be more of the focal point. You can do that as well. So you're not limited to just doing like an image too. Oh, okay. So Teresa, what's going on with you? The master pages, a little difficult to understand. A little. Okay, so you should really only be utilizing the master page for elements that are going to repeat on all the pages. So if you're using it for other things, it might kind of start getting a little bit like tricky in that regards. Yeah, the page numbers. Okay, so double click on the master page, and I went over this during week 1. Your page numbers, is there a specific question that you had about creating that, or what's kind of making you want to pull your hair out there? Is it just kind of alignment issues, or just getting the page numbers in there? Not able to set them up right. Okay, so, you know, I can review that again if you want me to. Let me get my guides here. Okay, so I'm going to go to normal. Okay, so just double click on your left side page of your master page, and that will get you right to your left page of your master. So what you need to do is draw a text box. And I'm just going to eliminate this so that you can see from the start. I pulled down a horizontal, a horizontal guide to kind of show me where I'm going to align that. Then I'm going to take my type tool and just align it with my left margin and also my horizontal guide. I'm going to pull that over. Oh, not that far, sorry. I'm going to pull this over to the right margin. So I used Universe 67 condensed at 10.12. 10 points is your size of your type. You can do 10 points. It's completely up to you what you want to do. Usually it's typically smaller. I wouldn't go any more than 11 points for that. And then you can use whatever typeface that is corresponding to your magazine. I'm using Universe because I'm using that for a lot of my subheads. So I'm going to click right in there with my type tool so it's blinking, it's ready to go, on the left page of my A master. And then I'm going to go up to my type on my menu bar, insert special character, markers, kind of nested in there. Current page number is what I'm going to select. And when I do that, it's going to create this A. And that A is just going to be kind of like for placement only where your page number is going to be once you do switch to your regular pages. So kind of just do a space after that. And you could do kind of like an option 8 or, you know, whatever, kind of have fun with this. You can do a shift right below the delete key. It's a little line, vertical line that you can use and do a space. And then, you know, it's up to you if you want to do the date here. You don't even actually have to have anything here. You can have the month. And I just chose to do this with the actual name of the magazine on the inside part of the binding here. With that being said, okay, no problem. I think I was talking as I didn't know you got booted out here, so you might want to listen to the recording. With that being said, I'm going to double click on top of this to select both my page number and the date. I'm going to go up to type, tabs, and I'm going to create a tab. Over here, I'm going to do a right justified tab. Let's see here, where am I at? I'm just going to click right in here. And I'm going to pull that. I can kind of see that bar moving across intuitively here on my screen. So I'm going to go right to the very right margin there. I'm going to let go at about 7.5 right there. And then I'm just going to click this red X. I'm going to put my cursor right after 2018, hit my tab on my keyboard, and then I'm going to type in fit me. And it goes right to that tab. Okay. The rule line above is a little different. What I did here was I created a style sheet. So I'm going to do a select all. I'm going to go up to window and styles and paragraph styles. I already created a folio style here, so I'm going to double click. And where it says paragraph rules, I'm going to choose rule above because I want that rule to be above the line. The rule is actually the line that you see horizontally there. I'm going to have the weight set at 0.5. And you can set it at any color you want or just black and white. I'm just going to set it at this blue color. You can actually set the type of line, so you don't have to do a solid line. It can be decorated. And then I'm going to click OK. And that sets that line above there that you see here. And I'm going to hide. I'm going to go to preview so you can see it a little bit better. Okay, and then you're just going to duplicate that on the right-hand side. And you're just going to change it so that the page number is on the right side. Usually I do a copy and paste, and the tab typically stays in place. And I showed this last time that I think it was week 1, we went over the folio. So if you need more clarification. But once that's set, save it, and then go back to your regular pages. And once you click on your regular pages in your page panel, the page number will not be the letter A anymore. It'll switch to the page that it's assigned to. The thing is with with master pages, you cannot edit the actual elements that you're using on a master page unless you actually click on the master page itself. So I can go in and change this, and then it'll kind of, once you save it, reflect it back on your pages. But I can't actually change it here. It's almost like it's locked. Okay. Does that make sense, Teresa? Are you good with that? Okay. And if you have any other questions, let me know. I know it's a little confusing at first because there's, you know, how you get to point A to get to point B sometimes is kind of confusing. But once you kind of get into that rhythm, you know, you won't forget it and you'll kind of understand it. So it's all kind of getting used to it. Any other questions about what we went over yesterday? Anything that you want to go over again? You're on the mobile. What do you mean by that? Are you doing it on your phone? Oh, you're designing on the actual mobile app? Or you're just listening on that? Okay, so you're currently listening to this. Okay. But you are completing your work on an actual computer, correct, Teresa? Okay. You know, you'd be surprised. I have a lot of students that try to do design work on their phones, and it's like, you know what, that might actually not work. All right. So yeah, if you have any other questions, let me know. Yeah, that's what I thought too. I was a little worried. All right, just make sure any type of, you know, think about the unification of what you guys did for your editor, letter from the editor. You know, you don't really want to, this is what I mean by this. If you design your letter from the editor with no indents, but a space after each paragraph, and everything was left justified, you wouldn't want to start your feature article without a drop cap, with your copy, your paragraphs being indented after each paragraph. You want to keep it consistent because there's a consistency in the actual publication that needs to happen to make it look very unified. Although you don't want your articles to look too unified in regards to the sections within. I don't know if that makes sense. So you want to make sure you know that you're reading each section separately, but it all kind of ties in a little bit as far as being unified of consistency in regards to, you know, alignment and all that good stuff. Does that make sense? You don't want to have too many things kind of shifting. Yeah, okay. So it can look different, but the same, you know, at the same time. Oh, I just saw something weird up here. Let me move this down. There we go. I have a weird hyphen going on, so I need to adjust this. All right, so, you know, kind of do what I'm doing, kind of massage some of your pictures, your text wraps, make sure that is the best for, you know, for what you're doing. And I see that I have a, there we go. That's probably better right there. My subhead kind of flipped down here. So some of the things like the text wraps, for instance, may kind of shift your body copy in a way that might not work. Just notice this too. So always be constantly looking at the details in everything. Because I shifted some things up, this is kind of getting weird. I'm going to shift this down, kind of make it, maybe make this more equal in space. There we go. You can always make a picture image, you know, image larger if you need to occupy that space. There we go. So I kind of balance these two lines out. The only thing is this is not quite balanced here. I want to make sure my baselines are all kind of meeting at the same area here. So with that being said, this is kind of where it's getting a little screwed up because I have a subhead up here. Maybe just kind of bumping this down a little bit might help that. I don't know. Let's see. Yeah, because that subhead's a little weird. So let me pull this down a little bit. Yeah, so that's going to be, that's, see, I'm having problems here. So, you know, you're seeing that I'm having issues, and that's the same issues that you're probably going to be dealing with. And that's typical. You know, as you're changing things, everything is going to shift out of place. I'm trying to gain another line here and end it where this baseline across the page from it is all very equal, but it doesn't seem like it's quite working with, there we go. I made it a little bit bigger and it shifts it a little, oh, but then this shifts too. Let's bring that up. Let's bring this in a little bit. Just a little bit of shifting going on here, but it's typical of this type of a layout. So just kind of, it's going to be one of those things where you just kind of have to keep adjusting. I just ungrouped this section so you can see that the text wrap is being affected here. So I have to go back and make those changes so that they're the same. There we go. Yeah, it looks pretty good. Maybe make it to the left a little bit. There we go. It's okay to have a little bit of space down here, but as long as the baseline of that first column matches up with the baseline of that first column on the second page, you're good. I'm going to keep that consistency. And that's what I didn't have. So this looks pretty good, pretty consistent. The only thing here, it does look like this has more space in between. Now that I see that, I would probably want to bump these up. I'm just kind of pulling that body copy box up a little bit. And then again, I'm going to have to adjust my images here. It's all kind of just a process that you go and try different things with. I'm going to eliminate that dog in there anyway, so it looks good. All right, so that looks a little bit more consistent. I have some space in here now that I have the same here and the same up here. So I will pay attention to that when I'm reviewing your work, making sure that all the baselines end at the same spot on every page. Now I have a weird thing going on here. I would probably try to figure something out. You don't really want to have, a one-line sentence starting out on a very end column of the neck, of the last page. You want to make sure that that doesn't happen. So in this case, what I would do is I would try to bump some things down here. So let me try up here. Oh, that's kind of not going to work there. So I'm going to go back. This is a little bit more difficult here. Let me see. There's a widow here that I could fix, possibly. Or just bump down this information. There we go. How can I fix that? Let me see here. Oh, I can bump this up. There we go. That's a quick fix. Now I have 2 lines down here in my second column at the very end. That's perfect. The only thing is it gives you a little bit more space here, and that's fine. So now I would just make this box a little bit bigger. I'm going to play around with it, see what works. Okay. Any questions so far about any of what we went over? Any questions of what we went over? Okay. So that's kind of some things to look out for, and to tell you guys what I'm looking for. Oh, there's a space here. It needs to happen. Oh, and then we have an orphan up there. So you kind of see everything that's kind of happening here that needs to be fixed. And what you can do is just kind of move some things around. I just moved my text box and I didn't mean to. Let's group these so I'm not. There we go. So just kind of shifting this down a little bit shifts everything else around. All right. And you guys are good with how to save this out. There we go. Okay. Yeah, I actually, to be honest with you, I have not had the time to look up, and I apologize, to see if you can customize your PDF in your package settings. I have been wanting to look that up. I've been so busy this week. It's been crazy. So if you can just kind of do that separately, that'd be great. So after you package, what you would do is just go back to your original file and do a save as. You can do smallest file size. Just make sure that you're, there we go. I haven't had time to really dig into this, and I apologize. I'm being honest with you guys. Hit the spreads instead of pages and click export. And what that's going to do is allow me to see your spreads so that I can evaluate your work instead of seeing vertical columns of your work. I'll show you in a second here what that looks like. Give me 1 second here. Like I said, the full moon is having a little bit of effect on me too. So it's been a crazy week. but I do want to actually make sure that I know what's going on there in regards to the packaging part, and if we can save this preset settings so that you don't have to go back and do an extra step. So this is kind of how I should be reviewing your PDF, and why I'm showing you this is because a lot of the times I just see vertical pages and they're not side by side, they're not printer spreads. This is called printer spreads. So I can review your work in a way that looks as if I'm looking at the magazine itself and flipping the pages. I can see the feature story as, yes, yeah. There you go, Jacob. He said his laptop just gave out on him, so I had to break out my work laptop. Yep, the full moon is messing with you too. All right, so that's kind of what we went over last time that we met yesterday. And like I said, oops, sorry guys, let me go back to my slides here. If you have any questions, let me know. At the end of the lecture here, which will be, not too far along here because I don't have too much to go over tonight. You can share your screen if you want to show your work and where you're at. You don't have to be finished, but if you want to get extra feedback, now is the time to do that. All right, so let's take a look at your assessment 2 here. If you guys don't have any questions. Oops, I'm actually opening up something I shouldn't be opening here. My notes page. Let's go back to Canvas here. And the assessment 2 is actually a midterm quiz. So you'll want to kind of review what's in the course media page for this as well. But some of the topics covered in this midterm quiz will be pretty much what's listed here. So you're going to discuss how styles enable better design and a more efficient workflow. Identify and discuss 3 strategies to create an efficient workflow to create a multi-page project. Create a design strategy for a multi-page layout utilizing principles of design. Identify and discuss effective composition layouts utilizing an advanced grid system. Apply a well-defined grid structure to enhance visual hierarchy. Identify 4 and apply 3 advanced tools for formatting formatting text or multiple pages to create a balanced layout. And then also utilize complex character and paragraph style sheets to create consistent formatting on a multi-page layout. So you will be, for this quiz here, 15 questions. And it is untimed. However, you will be able to take it only one time. It is worth 50 points. So, what I would say is kind of check out, go to your home page. I think, let me go to week assignment 2 here. If you go to the end of your assignment 2, you'll see a course media link here that you can click on. Course media. I wanted to show you this because I wasn't able to yesterday. If you go to week 2, there are required articles that are placed in here, and there's also a lynda.com playlist that you can check out. So what I wanted to show you yesterday, we ran out of time, was the 4 types of grids and when each works best. We talked about this yesterday as well, a little bit more in detail. I'm going to click on here so you can see it. We talked about manuscript grid, column grid, modular grid, and hierarchical grid. But what's nice about this article, it has visual examples for each one. So here's an example of a manuscript grid here. And it's sometimes called a block grid or single column grid. We talked about that being used primarily for, you know, books, lots of copy. There's also manuscript grids. You guys are discussing this week, and it's good for extensive and continuous blocks of text. So, you know, used in books, long essays. Column grids are shown here. They are made up of placing multiple columns within the format. And these are things that you have to think about: column gutters, you know, space in between each of your columns of text, modular grids. And as you're discussing this week in regards to the different types of grid structures, really kind of think about how that's going to relate to your project and your future article. You know, what's going to be the best possible approach for that. Hierarchical grids are commonly found on the web. So if you were to, excuse me, look up like wireframes, or what they're called, wireframes for web pages, you'll see kind of the grid structure set up for that. And so this is the example of that. So they're, you know, more intuitive placement of elements. You can see kind of like a larger image, and then it kind of down, there's secondary images in regards to that. Oh, are you? You're doing like your modular grids. Wireframes, cool, yeah. Yeah, wireframes are, you know, kind of the lingo of the grid structure that you would do for a website. Very cool. But you can also do it for a layout as well. All right, so don't forget to kind of, you know, read up on your articles. That was about the 4 types of grids. And then also, there's a really cool article about how to create balanced page layouts. And they show visuals here too. So use a grid. You know, they're kind of talking about how to create this successful layout here. Choose a single focal point. Remember how I was talking about the feature page having a focal point? Because when people read an article in a publication, their eye is drawn to a focal point. If you have everything emphasized the same equal size and emphasis, it's going to be hard to know where to look first, second, third, and fourth. So as designers, we have to make sure that we tell the target audience visually where to look first, second, third, and fourth, okay? So what happens if they're confused? If everything is emphasized, they get confused, they don't even want to look at it, you lose interest, they, you know, they're turning the page. That's not what we want here. We want to have a single focal point, whether it be an image or typography or a graphic element, so that it draws the people into the actual article or ad, if you're talking about an ad, and then kind of going, you know, kind of having a hierarchical grid structure to that. So you're going to say, okay, look at this focal point first, and then you're going to kind of read into the headline, and subheads will be like secondary. So this is kind of a nice summing up of what to kind of pay attention to when you're creating a balanced layout. Use the rule of thirds. We talked about that. Use white space. White space, you know, and I think this is one of the things that you know, and I've been there with you guys too. You know, I've been in your shoes where you think that you have to cram everything into this, you know, all the space that's given. But that's not necessarily the most effective way to do things. So as designers, we kind of have to learn, okay, white space is our friend, and we have to make sure that we have that visual white space in order to balance out the layout, to create that visual pause, so that the person that's viewing that publication article or whatever they're looking at it's not confusing. You can read it together. It flows very naturally. So that's kind of the idea behind that. Repeat design elements, that's just for unification, so that, and especially it's so important in a publication, if you're creating a feature article and it's 4 pages long and you're turning that page, you're creating that pause in between. You want to make sure that you are consistent with your elements so that the viewer knows that this is the same article that they're looking at, or else they'll be confused. Use hierarchy, again, emphasis. What's the first thing you want the viewer to see? What's the most important thing that you want them to see first, second, third, and everything kind of is secondary to that. Use scale, contrast, and harmony. So, you know, it's not emphasis is a little bit weird because we think, okay, always make things larger, but that's not necessarily the case. It could be more bold, it could be more contrasted. So, you know, think about that. You know, in this example here, you see the square is larger and also more bold in color. So it is definitely, you know, creating that, the eyes going right to that. But there's other ways you can show that, not just with color or shape, but also with, you know, the size as well. So very, very, you know, interesting thing, articles that you can definitely, you know, read into and see the visual examples here. And what's nice is they show the content covered here and then the learning objectives. As you go forward too, you have your lynda.com playlists on how to create certain things. So if you need, you know, extra help on understanding how to do a drop cap, for example, here's a 3-minute video on how to do that. So definitely check that out. All right. All right. Any questions about what we've gone over so far? Okay. You guys are like, okay, let's just get this going. All right. Let's see here. Got your assessment quiz. So we went over that. Make sure you're taking that. Do not just, you know, even if you think you didn't study enough, just take the assessment quiz. You'd be surprised of what knowledge that you kind of store. You don't want to just take a 0 for that, so definitely take that. All right, with that being said, I actually want to go over something here. Lisa had asked about Adobe Bridge, so we're going to open up Adobe Bridge here and just take a look at it. Lisa wanted to kind of look at it and kind of understand what it's all about here. And I want to be completely honest with you guys because I think that's important. I actually do not use Adobe Bridge that much because I kind of have my own, you're welcome, I have my own kind of, and I'm not saying this is, you know, this is definitely something that I haven't used because I have played around with it before, but I don't currently use it. I'm kind of the old school way of going about things. I think if I was more into the photography side of things, I would use this more so because it's very helpful when you're dealing with a lot of images. So Adobe Bridge, let's talk about this because this is one of the programs that is talked about in our discussion as far as making a more efficient designer. Let me take a drink here, sorry. So Adobe Bridge is, you know, pretty much a comparison program for Photoshop, and it's referred to as a digital asset manager or a media manager. You can really kind of, it's almost like a dashboard of sorts where you can see what's going on in each folder. And what's nice about Adobe Bridge, when you open this, you can pull up, you know, pull certain panels to be larger or smaller based on what you're looking at here. So it is nice to kind of review a lot of images at once if you have a lot of photography, you know, a lot of images to look at. So Adobe Bridge gives us pretty much powerful ways to find, manage, and organize our ever-growing collection of images. And it's not just limited to photos or just Photoshop. And it's a companion program for every app in Adobe Creative Cloud, or the Creative Suite as we call it. So we can use Bridge to manage not just images, but also Adobe Illustrator files, InDesign files, videos, and more. But I would say probably this would come more in handy if you're working in Photoshop. In my past experience, if I was working, you know, as a photographer or dealing with a lot of imagery, this would be a great application to use. So at its most basic, Adobe Bridge is a file browser. In similar ways to the file browser you can use with your computer's operating system. So you can download your photos from your camera or memory card, for example. But you can also use Bridge to find images that you're looking for on your computer as well. And it also lets us copy or move images from one folder to another. And then you can also copy or move entire folders from one location to another. You can create new folders, rename folders, and also images. You can delete them, and also you can delete images as well. So every basic function we can perform using our operating system's file browser, we can do with Adobe Bridge. You can also use it as a file management system. So you can display like thumbnail previews of all images in a folder so that you can kind of customize what you want within your actual project. You can change the sort order of the images. So we can order images by file name, file type, and each file was, when each file was created or modified, or the size or dimensions. So when I'm looking at, here we are looking at Adobe Bridge. You have a favorites tab here. So basically what it's doing is kind of showing us what our hard drive, what's on our hard drive, our desktop, documents, and pictures as far as on my computer. If you go to folders, it kind of gives you this nested view of what's on my hard drive. And then you can kind of go in a little bit into more detail here if you were to click on one of these folders. So if I want to go to applications, obviously it would go right into that, and you can see it on the left side here. Let me see if I can go to favorites here, desktop. I'm trying to see. Give me 1 second here, guys. I'm going to go to Dropbox here. It's a nice way to just kind of get to everything all at one time. Here's all my folders within the class that I teach for you guys. Here's lectures, work. So if I go to work, week 2, assignment 2, I can see that my folder here, here's all my linked images that I have. So you can actually click on the image itself individually, and you have a preview on the right-hand side if it's clicked on preview, and you can see what the image size is measured as pixel-wise, and also the memory of it. Here's 300 pixels per inch, CMYK, color mode, and all the other details within here. So it's really nice to kind of see where everything is before you place them. So if these needed replaced, saved out, obviously some of these are JPEGs, you can manage it within that. On the left-hand side here is the filters, keywords, author name. You have a lot of different palette option based on, say, if you're shooting photography, that will help you get to, for example, ISO, speed ratings, exposure time, all of that good stuff. So you have a lot of information. It's almost like a dashboard of sorts. You can see up here on the very top where this folder is, starts with IU, goes into classes. So it's showing you the breadcrumb trail of where to find this on your computer. You have these preferences up here. I have essentials clicked on, but you can also do film strip. It's just a different way of viewing it. Output. Let's see here. It'll take a while. Output is just kind of the summing of what this file is, what the size is, what file type, and keywords. And then you also have the option of viewing this in different ways. So you have essentials, film strip, output, you know, similar to how Photoshop and all the other Adobe programs are set up as. So it's a great way to kind of, you know, if you're dealing with a lot of images, that's a great way to kind of manage your images, kind of understand where you're at in one place instead of actually going into the folder and clicking on them individually. So it does save you time in that regards. All right, so with that being said, every image we use, we need to save as TIFFs. Yeah, that's actually a really good habit to get into. The only problem with that, it makes your file size a lot bigger. So I think in a lot of ways, you know, it's not specified in the details of your project on here to save it as a TIFF file, because it's going to create, your file size is going to be very large unless you downsize the image like I showed in the last demo. So as long as you're downsizing, yeah, you won't have like a 90 megabyte file. So it is always a really good habit to open up your images in Photoshop, scaling them down to where you're going to be using it, say, in a 3 by 2 inch space. You're going to size that down at the highest resolution, like I showed you last time that we met, and save that out individually as a TIFF. TIFF files are, you know, pretty much what you want to save it out as for your printed publication. If it's just a web application, you can leave it at 72 dots per inch. Yes, so I mean, it's a good habit to get into, and I don't know if a lot of instructors go over that, but it is important, because if you were to send this out, okay, good. If you were to send this out to a printer for print, they will come back to you and say, you have JPEGs all throughout this document. This needs to be converted into TIFFs. They will tell you that. So if you miss it, they will definitely let you know, hopefully, that you need to convert them to TIFF files. All right, so I'm going to show you, I have this video, which I think is kind of cool. It talks about not just bridge, but it talks about mini bridge. Did you guys ever hear of mini bridge before? It's kind of like the new thing here. Okay, so I'm going to show you this video. It's kind of cool. Mini bridge kind of incorporates itself into InDesign in a different way. It kind of works together side by side with InDesign. So this, and it's only, let's see here, I think it's like 5 minutes. Yeah, 5 minutes long. This video will explain mini bridge and how you can incorporate that into InDesign a little bit easier than regular bridge here. So let's take a look at this.
Adobe Bridge is one of the best programs you can use with InDesign. And even better is Mini Bridge, the cool panel that brings Bridge right into InDesign that Adobe added a few versions ago. I'm using InDesign CC here, and I'm going to open up Mini Bridge from the window menu. It's not part of any of the default workspaces. If you're using InDesign CC and you don't see Mini Bridge, that's probably because you did not install Bridge. Once you do install Bridge, then restart InDesign and you'll see Mini Bridge. Mini Bridge brings the most useful aspects of Bridge right into InDesign, as I said. And I want to show you a couple tricks that I like to use with Mini Bridge. First of all, I hate having to navigate through all of these folder hierarchies looking for the things that I want. I almost always will immediately jump to Favorites. You get the Favorites in Mini Bridge by clicking on this drop-down menu and choosing Favorites. Favorites are installed by default with Bridge, and you can remove some and add some, but what you want to do is add the folders that you use all the time to Favorites, like, for example, client projects, or maybe you have a folder called Clip Art. Put those right over into Favorites. The folder that I want to add is Client Projects. And I know that I have a Client Projects inside my Anne Marie Concepcion home folder, so I'm going to select Client Files, and then go to this drop-down menu and choose Add to Favorites at the bottom. You can do this from Bridge as well. Whatever you see in Bridge Favorites will appear in Mini Bridge as Favorites, and vice versa. Now when I go to Favorites, there's Client Files. Unlike Bridge, you don't see subfolders when you select a parent folder in Mini Bridge. This section over here will only show individual standalone files. In other words, if you want to see all the different folders that you have in Client Files, you have to keep double-clicking here on the left, or you can click this little right-pointing chevron over here. And now if I want to go to the Lost Highway project, I would select that, and I would see that there is an InDesign file here, and then also there is a folder called Original Links. And if I select that, I can see all the links in here. Once you are seeing actual images or files in Mini Bridge, then you can simply drag and drop them right from here. It's a lot faster than going to File Place, which in the Macintosh, you can't even see a preview very often if you're trying to select more than one file at a time. But here, if I wanted to bring over a flower, I could just drag and drop it right onto the screen, or I could select multiple items and drag and drop them. In other words, if you're at that point of a project where you're dragging over lots of images, consider using Mini Bridge rather than the File Place dialog box. Now, here's another cool feature of Mini Bridge. Let's say that you're working on a document and you want to bring over an image that you used in a different document. You don't remember the file name for that. You don't remember where it was saved, but you do remember where the actual InDesign file was. For example, I want to bring over something from Client Files that I know was in the Rue Academy project that I did. So I'm going to select Rue Academy, and there is the InDesign file, and I can see a preview of the InDesign file. You know what I want to bring in is I want to bring in this little wooden stick figure into my document. But how do I find out what that stick figure is named or where it's stored? Well, you see this little link icon? You'll see this in all of your InDesign files, starting with version 4.0 and later. If you right-click on here, you can choose Show Linked Files. Even if all of the linked images were scattered in different folders on your hard drive and on the server, if they weren't all packaged neatly in one links folder, this brings them all into the same window. This is a fantastic feature. It's also available in Bridge, by the way. But here I'm just going to reduce the number of thumbnails so I can see better. I can just scroll, and there it is. This is the guy that I want to bring over. Here's my figure. And finally, let's talk about bringing over multiple images from collections. Collections can only be built in Bridge. And if you want to learn more about collections and Bridge in general, I have a course here on Lynda called 10 Things Every Designer Needs to Know About Bridge. But collections are fantastically useful because they let you create folders full of aliases of other images. Instead of having to duplicate the same image in multiple folders, one in client logos, one in the project folder where you use that client logo, you can just make collections in Bridge and not have to actually move files around. So I have created a folder called New Catalog Flowers that collects all of the pictures that I've taken or that our photographer has taken and that are stored in various folders on my hard drive into one collection. And that collection is available in Mini Bridge. So from this drop-down menu where I selected Favorites before, I'll choose Collections. And I'm going to go to New Catalog Flowers. And here are the three flowers. There's three of these flowers that I want to add to this catalog. I'm going to shift-click them all because I want to bring them all at the same time. Drag them over here. And then you have to click one more time. And then they start appearing. I'm going to undo so that all three are still loaded. And this time, as I drag, I'm going to tap the up arrow twice so that I can place all three at about the size that I need. And then I can go ahead and start rearranging them and getting them to fit in the catalog exactly as I need. So all the tricks that you know about InDesign for placing multiple images can be combined with all the wonderful techniques that you can use with Bridge within this very neglected panel in InDesign called Mini Bridge.
All right, so kind of something to think about, you know, as far as placing those images in. That's kind of cool, huh? Little mini bridge option there. Yeah, so it really kind of works very intuitively with the actual program side by side. You're not having to open Adobe Bridge separately and looking at it separately in the program. You're opening it up in InDesign and applying your images in regards to that. So that's kind of cool to play around with. I don't believe the text, unless it's an image, you can place that in there. That's the only tricky part. I think it's more of an image-based conversion, because as you saw, you know, those images that he was looking at were JPEGs or TIFFs. So it's, I think, you know, and honestly, I don't use Bridge that much, to be completely honest with you. If I was a photographer, I probably would say I would be using this a lot more so, because it's more of a great program to organize your images and, you know, collect everything on that same dashboard. But, you know, obviously you can play around with it. I've played around with it before with projects, but sometimes you have to pick and choose different projects that you think it's appropriate for. But it's cool to kind of look at. So I'm glad you brought that up to my attention in regards to, you know, looking it over. I think that's good. So I really appreciate that, Lisa. That's great. You know, and if anybody wants to bring up any type of things that you want to learn too, we can definitely go over that. Yeah, and do you have any questions about any of that? Okay, awesome. You know, just playing around with things, you know, taking a look at it, navigating the apps that you're not used to is really kind of helpful. All right. So we went over InDesign, I'm sorry, Bridge. We went over different types of grids. Again, we looked at how to create a balanced layout. We went over just a little bit about your assignment too that we went over last night. And then your quiz. Do any of you at this point want to show any of your work to get extra feedback or help with? Don't be afraid. If you don't have anything, that's fine too. No pressure. I'm just going to kind of open it up to you guys at this point to see if you have any questions, want to review anything, want to some extra feedback on. Okay, you guys. All right, so you guys aren't far along. All right, very good. All right, well, let's see here. We are into the second week here. The third week. Okay, Teresa, no problem. The third week, just kind of give you a heads up on what we're going to be doing. We are going to be next week creating a full page advertisement. So just kind of keep that in mind, which is, you know, great for this type of a project, because that's typically what happens when you're designing for a publication. You have, you know, advertisements to actually, not all of the ads that you will be designing, but some of the ads in the actual publication you could design. So that's a great project for assignment 3 that's coming up. For your assessment 3, I should say, getting creative with social media, once you create your full page magazine advertisement, you will be also creating what I believe is, let's see here, research and proper techniques. Okay, so you're going to create web media out of that. So it's going to go from a printed piece to a web piece. So that'll be really cool. Just to give you guys heads up. Sometimes it's nice to kind of look forward to it. Because typically when you get a job that involves printed work, it also usually kind of involves web work as well. So, a printed ad, you might design for, a web ad as well. It might be a different size ratio. Obviously, it's going to be, different file type and dots per inch, pixels per inch. So you kind of have to be very flexible and understand how to go with the flow with that. Do you ever do critiques of our stuff? Yep, I have in the past. Yep. Is there anything in particular you want to critique now that you brought that up? Because I haven't shown any past work in this class, but I have in past classes. It's a good suggestion. Because I did not have anything that I pulled from this week, maybe what we can do for next week is I can show some of your some of the student work that I think is, at a good level to inspire you guys with. Yes, I agree. I think that's a good thing too. Yep, I totally agree with that. So maybe what I'll do is I'll incorporate, now that you brought that up, the next time that we meet up, I'll incorporate some student examples. As long as you are okay with that, and like I said, I'll just pick a few that I think is worthy enough to show for changes and revisions and adjustments. Okay, awesome. Yes, good question for sure. Oh, I think somebody typed in here. Hold on one second. All right. With that being said, this is pretty much, I'm going to wrap it up so you guys can get started with your projects. If you have any other questions, let me know. If you want to show any work, let me know at this point. I'm losing some people here, so that's okay. Okay. Yeah, it's kind of a rough night. It's like we went over a lot of information yesterday, so hopefully this will balance everything out. All right, guys. Well, have a wonderful evening, and reach out to me if you have any questions, and I'll see you guys on the discussion boards if not. All right, guys. Have a great night.